She heard the whisper before anyone else. One wrong move could cost him $50 million. But she couldn't just stand by. Would courage be enough to change both their lives forever? Hello beautiful souls, and welcome to Ms. Love Stories channel. The place where love, drama, and unforgettable moments come alive. I'm so thrilled you're here, ready to dive into stories that will make your heart race, bring tears, and leave you believing in the power of love. Before we begin, I want to get to know all of you. Comment below and tell me where you're watching from, because in the next video, I'll give a special shout out to some of you amazing viewers from around the world. I can't wait to see how far our love story family reaches. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, so you never miss a single emotional journey. Get ready to feel, laugh, cry, and fall in love all over again, because every story we share here is for you. Now, the story begins. Rose. Peter sat in the corner of the opulent cafe, a double espresso untouched in front of him. The sunlight fell through the floor-to-ceiling windows, catching the faint silver in his hair, but even that glow couldn't warm the chill in his chest. The divorce had left him hollow, stripped of trust, love, and a home he'd once adored. Every tick of the ornate clock on the wall reminded him that life didn't pause for heartbreak. He scrolled through his emails on a sleek tablet, his eyes flicking over numbers he'd stopped caring about months ago. A $50 million deal was on the line. A deal that could make or break someone else's future, though he barely felt its weight. It wasn't the money he craved, not really. It was connection. Something tangible, something real, that had long since eluded him. A barista called his name, snapping him from his spiral. "Sir, your espresso." His hand shook slightly as he took it, and for a moment, the bitterness of the drink mirrored the bitterness in his life. Across town, Sophia wiped down tables at a bustling downtown cafe. Her apron was streaked with coffee and flour, her hair tied back in a practical bun. Customers chattered. Phones rang, orders piled up. But Sophia's mind wasn't on the day-to-day grind. She had always been the quiet observer, the one who noticed small things others overlooked. A nervous glance, a whispered conversation, the subtle tension in the air. Her eyes flicked toward a man she recognized from the news. Peter, the billionaire known for his cold precision and ruthless business dealings. He sat alone, the way people did when they carried invisible burdens. Sophia didn't envy him. She saw the loneliness behind the tailored suits, the high-rise apartments, and the flashy cars. As she carried a tray past his table, her ear caught fragments of a conversation at the next table. A whisper of a plan, a scheme involving Peter and millions of dollars. Her heart raced. She wasn't one to meddle, but something about the danger tightened her chest. The cafe's clock chimed mid-morning, a low, resonant sound that seemed to pull the two worlds closer. Though they were still miles apart in circumstance. Peter stirred in his chair, rubbing his temples. Sophia adjusted a chair, nearly bumping into a customer, her thoughts lingering on the overheard words. Somewhere in the crowded city streets, invisible threads began weaving around them. Peter was unaware of the storm approaching his life, and Sophia hadn't yet realized that her choices would soon thrust her into a world of danger, high stakes, and emotional reckoning. The air between them, though unformed, seemed charged. It was as if fate had whispered, "You're about to meet someone who will change everything." Before the world shifts beneath their feet, ask yourself, what would you risk to save someone you barely know? Leave a comment with your answer. It might just be closer to what Peter and Sophia will face. Sophia wiped down the counter, her hands slick with warm soap. The cafe buzzed around her. Clinking cups, low murmurs, a blender whirring. She didn't notice the slight tremor in her stomach until she caught a fragment of a conversation from a shadowed corner booth. "Everything's set. Peter won't see it coming. $50 million. It's practically a guaranteed windfall," one man whispered. Sophia froze, the rag in her hand stiffening. The words cut through the cafe's white noise like a knife. Her pulse quickened, heart thumping against her ribs. She glanced toward Peter's table, where he sat absorbed in his emails, unaware of the looming threat. The second man replied, a dark undertone in his voice. "By the time he realizes, it'll be too late. Nobody can stop us." A cold shiver ran down Sophia's spine. She had to do something, but fear held her tongue. Her mind raced. What if I'm wrong? What if I misheard? But I can't just sit here. Peter's gaze was fixed on his tablet, numbers swimming on the screen, but he sensed something off, an intangible tension in the air. The sudden hush of a nearby table, a waitress lingering too long, a glance that didn't belong. His instincts, honed over decades of business and betrayal, tingled. Something was wrong. And then Sophia's subtle hesitation, her eyes flicking nervously toward him, caught his attention. He looked up, meeting hers for a brief moment, and felt a jolt of curiosity, concern. He couldn't place it. Sophia's hands trembled as she considered her options. Run. Call someone? Alert Peter? The rational voice inside her screamed to step back, but the moral voice, the part of her that couldn't ignore danger, won. She leaned closer to the edge of the counter, pretending to straighten a chair, straining to hear more without drawing attention. Every syllable from the men's conversation pierced her like shards of glass. Tonight, when he signs, nothing will stop us. Her stomach twisted. Peter's life, his fortune, his future. It all balanced on a knife edge. She couldn't allow him to be blindsided. Peter caught the glint of fear, or was it determination? In Sophia's eyes. Something about the way she bit her lip, the subtle shake in her hands, told him she knew something he didn't. A spark of trust, or perhaps curiosity, flared in him. He spoke quietly, almost a whisper. Are you okay? Sophia froze, caught off guard. Her lips parted, a hesitant murmur escaping. I overheard something about you. Peter's eyebrows rose, the tablet forgotten. Go on, he said cautiously. Sophia's voice wavered as she recounted the fragments she had heard. Peter felt the familiar weight of adrenaline, of fear and responsibility, pressing down. His mind raced through possibilities, outcomes, threats. Every muscle in his body tensed. In that charged silence, both felt it, the invisible thread binding them. Peter's vulnerability, rarely shown to anyone, was exposed. Sophia's courage, quiet but unyielding, shone through. The world narrowed to this single moment. A millionaire's life, a waitress's bravery, and a threat that could change everything. The cafe noises faded into background hums. Every glance, every slight gesture, the trembling hand, the shallow breath, carried meaning. They weren't just strangers anymore. They were two souls suspended in the gravity of danger, forced to confront more than just the threat. Their own fears, their own limitations, and their ability to trust. What would you do if you accidentally discovered someone's life was in danger? Comment below. Could you risk everything to save a stranger? Peter walked the streets after leaving the cafe, his hands shoved deep in his coat pockets. The evening wind cut through the city, carrying the smell of rain on asphalt, and the faint aroma of roasted coffee from nearby shops. He couldn't shake the unease, but his mind was stubborn, calculating. Impossible, he told himself. She must be mistaken. There's no danger. I've survived boardroom betrayals, corporate takeovers, threats. This is nothing. He clenched his jaw, feeling the familiar armor of pride settle around him. Vulnerability was a luxury he couldn't afford. Not now, not ever. Peter was a man of logic, of control. Panic had no place here. And yet, the memory of Sophia's trembling hands and wide, fearful eyes gnawed at him, refusing to be ignored. He shook his head and exhaled sharply, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. Overreacting. A waitress with nerves imagining stories. And yet, the thought of losing everything, the deal, his reputation, perhaps his life, lingered like a shadow he couldn't outrun. Meanwhile, Sophia returned home, the small apartment dimly lit by the fading sun. She leaned against the counter, her back stiff, her palms clammy. Every nerve in her body was screaming that she needed to act, that she had a responsibility. Yet fear held her captive. What if I'm wrong? She thought, her mind replaying the whispers. What if it's nothing? I can't just storm in and risk everything. What if I make it worse? The thought of confronting dangerous men alone, risking her own safety, paralyzed her. Her mother's voice echoed faintly in memory. Think first, act second. Never put yourself in harm's way. But the image of Peter, unsuspecting and vulnerable, wouldn't leave her mind. Sophia paced the apartment, the sound of her shoes on the wooden floor like a drumbeat of rising anxiety. She tried to push the thoughts away, distract herself with chores, television, anything, but the fragments of that conversation clung to her, whispering guilt and urgency. The next morning, Peter returned to the cafe, forcing himself to smile at the baristas, to nod at acquaintances, to act as if the shadow of fear didn't exist. But Sophia noticed him immediately, the tension in his shoulders, the forced lightness in his eyes. She hesitated. She wanted to warn him, to give him the full story, but a voice in her head cautioned restraint. He's a millionaire. He can handle it. Or maybe, he won't believe me. Peter, noticing her lingering gaze, felt a pang of something unfamiliar. Trust. Connection? He wanted to believe she had information, that she was a lifeline, but his pride resisted. I can't let someone else control this, he thought. I'm the one who fixes problems. So both remained silent, the unsaid words heavy between them. Over the next days, subtle signs of danger appeared. A black car parked too long outside Peter's office, a man loitering near his building entrance, a phone call with a voice too smooth to trust. Peter, ever meticulous, logged the occurrences, but dismissed them as coincidences, as paranoia creeping in. Sophia observed from a distance, her hands twitching, her chest tight. Every instinct screamed for intervention, but fear, self-doubt, and the uncertainty of Peter's response kept her rooted in place. Their worlds were colliding, yet neither could bridge the distance. Peter's armor of pride shielded him from taking advice seriously, and Sophia's hesitation shielded her from danger, but at the cost of growing tension and emotional isolation. Even in resistance, small gestures spoke volumes. Peter left a tip for Sophia, a generous smile hidden beneath layers of skepticism. Sophia paused, feeling a flicker of warmth, yet her worry remained. They shared brief conversations, Peter asking mundane questions, Sophia giving clipped, cautious answers. In each word and glance, unspoken truths hung like a thin thread, taut and trembling. Both knew danger was near, yet both denied it in different ways. Peter through logic and pride, Sophia through fear and hesitation. The city around them carried on oblivious. But for Peter and Sophia, every noise, every shadow, every glance was heavy with potential consequence. That night, Peter stood on the balcony of his penthouse, staring at the city lights. Pride told him he was safe, untouchable, but doubt lingered, whispering that perhaps he wasn't. Vulnerability, that rare and unwelcome companion, settled beside him. Sophia, lying in bed, stared at the ceiling, haunted by imagined scenarios. She saw Peter's face, the risk of losing everything, and the question that tormented her. Do I act and risk myself, or stay silent and risk him? Both characters were trapped in a web of emotion, fear, pride, duty, and moral responsibility, resisting what they knew in their hearts, that their lives and their choices were about to intersect in irreversible ways. If you were in Sophia's shoes, would you risk your life to save someone you barely know? Comment below. What would you do? It happened suddenly. Peter received an urgent call from his assistant. The deal was being rushed forward due to unforeseen threats, and he needed to travel immediately to finalize paperwork. The building's security had picked up suspicious activity, foot traffic, unidentified visitors, and it wasn't safe for him to go alone. Sophia had just finished her morning shift, and when she saw Peter exiting the cafe hurriedly, she instinctively followed, her instincts screaming that danger was closer than either of them had realized. A sleek black SUV waited outside, the engine idling, shadows pooling around the tinted windows. Peter looked at Sophia, startled. You shouldn't be here, he said, voice taut. I overheard something. I can help, Sophia replied quietly, eyes fierce despite the tremor in her hands. Peter hesitated. Pride warred with necessity. Could he trust a waitress with a life and death matter? But instinct screamed yes. Fine, he said finally. We're going together. But stay quiet, stay close. The SUV roared to life, carrying them through the bustling city. The scent of leather and cologne mixed with the faint hum of the air conditioning. Sophia sat rigidly beside Peter, aware of every flicker of movement from the drivers and security team. Peter, normally composed, was tense, eyes scanning mirrors and traffic alike. I don't usually involve outsiders, he muttered. You don't usually trust anyone, Sophia countered carefully, testing his reaction. A tense silence followed, punctuated by the low hum of the engine and the distant city sounds. In this silence, something fragile began to form. Recognition of the other's courage and necessity. Neither wanted to admit it yet, but they were beginning to rely on each other. They were diverted to a safe house Peter's company maintained for emergencies. It was modest compared to his usual penthouse, a sterile, quiet apartment with reinforced locks and security cameras. Yet it had a strange intimacy. The soft hum of the refrigerator, the faint smell of disinfectant, the muted lighting, all of it forced them into proximity. Sophia set down her bag, her fingers brushing against the counter. She hesitated, then spoke softly. I just want to help. I didn't mean to overstep. Peter looked at her, caught off guard by her sincerity. His usual armor of arrogance softened for a fraction of a second. I know, he said, voice low. I appreciate it. More than I can say. The room felt smaller suddenly, every glance and movement amplified. Fear bound them together physically, but an emotional tether had formed as well, unspoken, yet undeniable. They sat on opposite sides of the small kitchen table. Peter ran a hand through his hair, his usual composure fraying. I've always solved problems myself, he admitted. I'm not used to depending on anyone. Sophia looked down at her hands. Sometimes you have to, she said softly. It's not weakness to let someone in. Even for a moment. The words lingered, heavy with implication. Peter's chest tightened, not from fear, but from something else, something he hadn't felt in years, trust and the stirrings of connection. A sudden noise outside. A van pulling up too close, tires crunching gravel, made them both freeze. Peter's hand instinctively moved toward the drawer, where he kept a small security device. Sophia's heart raced. Every instinct screamed danger, but now they faced it together. You ready? Peter asked, eyes meeting hers. Sophia nodded, a tiny, resolute gesture. Let's go. The proximity forced them to move in sync, communicate with gestures, and read each other's cues. Fear became the crucible where their trust, however reluctant, began to form. In these hours, something subtle shifted. Sophia noticed Peter's small acts of consideration. The way he ensured she had a seat, how he briefed her calmly on what to expect. Peter noticed her courage, small, careful, yet unwavering. The tension of survival became intertwined with a strange intimacy. They were still strangers, yet in the crucible of fear, survival, and necessity, a fragile bond had begun to emerge. Neither could afford distraction. Yet both were drawn to the other in ways they didn't yet understand. Have you ever had to trust someone completely, even when you didn't want to? Comment below. What would you do in Peter and Sophia's shoes? The safe house was quiet now, the city outside darkening into night. Peter leaned against the wall, staring at a framed photograph on a shelf, a family portrait from years ago. His fingers traced the edges, trembling slightly. He had been young, ambitious, and in love. A woman, a fiancée, had once believed in him completely. But betrayal, both personal and professional, had shattered him. He lost not just love, but trust itself. Every betrayal hardened him, making him wary of letting anyone close. He muttered to himself, voice barely above a whisper. I can't risk being vulnerable again. Sophia, sitting across from him, noticed the tremor in his hands, the distant look in his eyes. Peter, what's haunting you? She asked gently. He flinched. The words cut deeper than he expected. He wasn't used to anyone asking, not like this. It's complicated, he said, swallowing hard. I've lost people who mattered most. And I can't afford to lose anyone else. Sophia nodded, her chest tightening. She didn't push. She understood the weight of past mistakes. Silence stretched between them, comfortable yet charged. Sophia, meanwhile, was reminded of her own history as she kept watch through the safehouse blinds. She had grown up small, unnoticed, always learning to protect herself and those she loved. Her father had disappeared when she was 10, leaving her mother to work 3 jobs to make ends meet. Sophia learned early that courage sometimes meant risking yourself for others, even when it was terrifying. Her hand brushed against a worn locket around her neck. A gift from her mother. Inside was a picture of her father. Her chest ached. I have to do this. I can't let fear stop me. Peter watched her, noting the determination in her posture, the quiet bravery she radiated. He had seen many people in crisis, but Sophia's courage wasn't loud or demanding. It was steady, deliberate, and selfless. The safe house grew colder, shadows stretching across the walls. Peter broke the silence. I've built walls thick once. But seeing you, Sophia. His voice faltered. I haven't felt this. I don't even know the word. Sophia's lips pressed into a thin line. Connection, she offered softly. He gave a humorless chuckle. Yes. Connection. Trust. Something I haven't allowed myself in years. She looked down, unsure whether to meet his gaze. I'm scared, she admitted. Not just for you, but for both of us. This isn't just business, it's life and death. And I don't know if I'm strong enough. Peter's expression softened. You are. You're stronger than you realize. And I think I needed someone like you more than I knew. The safe house walls seemed to shrink around them, a cocoon of shared vulnerability. Fear had brought them together, but now their pasts were binding them emotionally, creating a fragile, intimate connection. Despite the emotional intimacy forming, reality intruded. A faint tapping sound at the window, almost imperceptible, made both flinch. Peter's instincts snapped to attention, and Sophia's eyes widened. Did you hear that? Sophia whispered. Peter nodded, pulling out a small flashlight and a security device. They're close, he said grimly. And they're not just after money. They're after fear, control, power. We have to be ready. The danger pressed against them, heightening every heartbeat, every shared glance. Their bond was no longer abstract. It was forged in the crucible of survival and shared trust. Have secrets ever shaped the way you connect with someone else? Comment below. What past wound would you reveal if it could save someone's life? The safe house hummed with the quiet rhythm of survival. The soft tick of a clock, the distant city sounds muffled by reinforced walls, and the occasional shuffle of footsteps. Peter and Sophia had spent hours reviewing threats, tracing contacts, and double-checking every precaution. The tension was high, but a fragile calm had begun to settle between them. Sophia poured 2 cups of tea from the small electric kettle, the aroma of chamomile filling the tiny kitchen. She handed one to Peter, who accepted it with a small nod of gratitude, his fingers brushing hers briefly. A spark, brief but undeniable, flared in both of them. Chamomile? Peter asked, raising an eyebrow. Helps with nerves, Sophia replied, a teasing note in her voice. You look like you could use it. He chuckled softly, a sound rare for someone usually so stoic. And here I thought only spreadsheets and security devices could calm me. The ice cracked a little. Laughter, small and hesitant, filled the room. An antidote to fear, reminding them that humanity existed even in the shadows of danger. After tea, Peter leaned back in the worn sofa, finally allowing a moment of quiet reflection. I never thought I'd trust anyone like this, he admitted, voice low. Not after everything. Sophia's eyes softened. It's hard, she said. But sometimes, letting someone in is the only way to survive, not just physically, but emotionally. He studied her for a long moment, noticing the strength in her gaze, the subtle tension in her shoulders, and the faint tremble in her hands despite her composure. You've been brave all along, he said quietly. Not reckless, not foolish. Brave. Sophia swallowed, feeling an unfamiliar warmth at the praise. I just do what I have to, she said, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Sometimes, that's all anyone can do. In the midst of planning escape routes and contingency plans, a small mishap occurred. Sophia accidentally knocked over a stack of papers, sending them fluttering across the floor. Both froze, startled. Then Peter laughed, a low, rich sound that made Sophia smile despite herself. You're lucky I'm not in a mood to scold, he said, kneeling to gather the papers. Otherwise, I'd make you do push-ups for that. Sophia rolled her eyes playfully. Push-ups? Really? I save your life and you threaten me with exercise. He grinned, handing her a few of the papers. Consider it motivation. It was a small moment, but in it, the tension between them eased, replaced by shared humanity and burgeoning connection. Later, as the night deepened, they sat near the window, the city lights a distant glitter below. Sophia's hand rested on her mug, and Peter's fingers brushed hers again, almost unconsciously. You know, Peter said, voice thoughtful, I've spent most of my life building walls, protecting myself, thinking that distance was safer. Sophia looked at him, curious. And, he sighed. And maybe it isn't. Maybe courage isn't just about facing danger outside. It's about facing it inside too. Facing people. Trusting them. Letting them matter. Sophia's heart ached at the vulnerability in his voice. You can matter, she said softly. Even to someone like me. For a long moment, silence enveloped them. In that silence, something shifted. Fear gave way to trust, danger softened into companionship, and the seeds of love, unexpected, fragile, began to grow. Even as emotions softened, danger remained. A shadow passed outside the reinforced window, and both tensed instantly. Their hands lingered together for a heartbeat longer than necessary before instinct and survival kicked in. Peter whispered, "Stay close. No one leaves this room alone." Sophia nodded, heart racing, not just from fear, but from the realization that in this moment, she was connected to someone in a way she hadn't anticipated. The line between necessity and emotional attachment blurred, making every choice heavier, every glance more charged. Have you ever felt a bond form under pressure, in the middle of fear? Comment below. Could you trust someone so quickly if your life depended on it? It was early morning. Sophia had stepped away to check a suspicious noise outside the safe house. A shadowy figure lurking near the back door. Peter, engrossed in reviewing security footage, didn't notice her absence. Suddenly, the sound of glass shattering echoed through the apartment. Sophia had triggered a sensor, and panic surged. From outside, a masked man darted away. Peter, seeing her in the hall with wide eyes, assumed the worst. "What are you doing?" he shouted, fear and anger cutting through the room. "Do you have any idea how dangerous this is?" Sophia, shaken, held her hands up. "I was trying to protect us. I saw someone." Peter cut her off, voice sharp. "I told you to stay put. Do you have any idea what could have happened?" Sophia's chest tightened. Peter, I thought. I don't need your help if it risks everything." Peter snapped, turning away, jaw tight. Pride, fear, and frustration clouded his judgment. For a moment, Sophia froze, the sting of his words cutting deeper than she expected. She had risked herself to keep him safe, and now he was angry at her. Her courage faltered under the weight of rejection. I can't do this," she whispered, her voice trembling. "If you think my trying to protect you is a betrayal, maybe I don't belong here at all." Peter didn't respond. The silence was deafening. His mind raced with paranoia, fear, and unspent tension, while his heart ached from the unintended cruelty of his words. As their emotional storm raged, the danger outside intensified. A black SUV reappeared, headlights cutting across the safehouse blinds. A low, authoritative voice called out, "Peter, step outside. Now." Peter's protective instincts surged, but Sophia's absence moments earlier had shaken him. The adrenaline of fear collided with emotional pain, creating a cocktail of anger, mistrust, and helplessness. Sophia, standing by the door, felt the same panic mirrored in his eyes. She wanted to explain, to reach out, to bridge the chasm, but his pride and the gravity of the threat blocked her. Peter retreated to the far side of the safe house, his back rigid, fists clenched. "Stay out of my way," he said coldly. "This is my problem." Sophia's heart sank. She had hoped their bond, their trust, could withstand danger, but his words shattered the fragile intimacy they had built. "I'm trying to help. I'm trying to save you," she whispered, barely audible. "Then you're trying too much," he barked, eyes flashing. "I can't afford mistakes." The air between them thickened, heavy with frustration, fear, and unspoken hurt. They were no longer partners in danger. They were two isolated souls, suspended in mutual pain and misunderstanding. Sophia retreated to the kitchen corner, her hands shaking. I thought he'd understand. That we'd be in this together." Her mind raced, guilt clawing at her. Had she really overstepped? Peter, meanwhile, sat in the dark, staring at the floor. Anger, fear, and shame swirled inside him. "I shouldn't have yelled, But she risked everything. How can I trust anyone? Both felt the crushing weight of loneliness, magnified by danger and betrayal. The bond that had been forming in moments of vulnerability seemed irreparably broken. A shattered coffee mug lay on the floor from the morning incident, its broken ceramic pieces glinting under the dim light. Peter noticed it, a painful metaphor for the current state of their connection. Fragile, fractured, seemingly beyond repair. Sophia, eyes glistening with unshed tears, picked up a fragment absently, tracing its jagged edge. Maybe some things can't be fixed, she murmured. Peter heard her, the words cutting him like the shards on the floor. For the first time, he questioned not the danger outside, but the emotional distance inside. Could they survive this rift? Or had the external threats merely mirrored the emotional ones between them? Have you ever lost trust with someone at the worst possible time? Comment below. Could you forgive, or would pride and fear keep you apart? Peter sat alone in the dim safe house, staring at the city lights through the reinforced blinds. His chest was tight, and the adrenaline from the earlier confrontation slowly ebbed, leaving raw emotion in its wake. He thought of Sophia, her courage, her voice, her unwavering willingness to protect him. And yet he had lashed out, letting fear and pride rule him. The thought gnawed at him. I can't lose her. Not because of fear, not because of my own stubbornness, he admitted silently. She saved me more than once, she risked herself for me. How can I let pride destroy this connection? His fingers curled around a security device, white-knuckled. It wasn't the device that mattered. It was the realization that survival alone wasn't enough. Trust, human connection, love even mattered too. Sophia leaned against the kitchen counter, her eyes fixed on the broken ceramic pieces of the morning's coffee mug. They sparkled faintly under the dim light, sharp, dangerous, yet holding a strange beauty. Maybe some things can't be fixed, she thought. Maybe I shouldn't be involved. Maybe I'm not enough. But then her mind drifted to Peter, the quiet, stoic man who had let a glimpse of himself show through. Even if just for a moment. I can't leave him to face this alone. I can't let fear win. Her decision solidified. Courage wasn't just running toward danger. It was choosing to open herself up again, to trust, to risk emotional pain for something real. Hours passed in tense silence. Both wrestled with their choices, haunted by pride, fear, and past wounds. Peter traced the outline of a photograph on the wall, the one from Act 5, thinking of the walls he'd built around himself. Sophia held the locket her mother had given her, fingers trembling as she made her choice. She would act, not out of obligation, but because she believed in the fragile bond they had formed. Peter finally spoke into the empty room, voice low but steady. Sophia, I was wrong. About everything. I let fear, let my pride get in the way. Sophia stepped forward cautiously, her hands slightly shaking. I know you're scared, she said softly. I am too. But we can face it together. I believe in you. And us. He looked at her, emotion warring with pride. Every muscle in his body tensed, then relaxed slightly. Vulnerability, terrifying yet necessary, coursed through him. I don't know how to do this, he admitted. Then we'll learn, Sophia said gently. They moved closer, the air thick with tension and unspoken emotions. Outside, distant sounds of the city reminded them of the danger still lurking. But inside, a conscious decision was made. To trust, to reconnect, to risk emotional pain for survival and connection. Peter extended his hand. Together? Sophia took it, a firm grip that conveyed courage, hope, and commitment. Together, she whispered. In that moment, fear began to lose its hold. Their bond, tested and fractured, was now rebuilt on choice, courage, and mutual trust. No words were needed to acknowledge the lingering threat outside. Both knew that danger still loomed. $50 million at risk, men watching, plans unfolding. But the emotional victory within the safe house gave them the strength to face it together. Each glance, each touch, each unspoken understanding reinforced that they were no longer alone. Not in the battle outside, and not in the battle within themselves. If you had to risk everything for someone, would you choose courage or fear? Comment below. What would you do in Peter and Sophia's place? The black SUV that had haunted their safe house finally stopped outside again. Shadows flickered across reinforced blinds as Peter and Sophia crouched together, surveying the scene. "Tonight it ends," Peter whispered, eyes steely. He had shed layers of pride, fear, and hesitation. Now only clarity and resolve remained. Sophia nodded, gripping his hand for support. "Together," she affirmed. The intruders, men with a reputation for ruthlessness, approached the side entrance. Peter activated the security override while Sophia quietly moved to block the secondary exit. Every heartbeat was amplified. Footsteps, engine hum, the rustle of leaves outside. The tension mirrored when Sophia first overheard the threat. But now, instead of fear alone, there was determination, unity, and courage. Peter and Sophia coordinated silently, using subtle signals and eye contact. Peter distracted the men by triggering a false alarm on the upper floor while Sophia guided them into a trap set with security barriers and silent locks. The men realized too late that they had underestimated their target. The $50 million remained secure, Peter's life intact, and Sophia's quick thinking had been instrumental. When the last man was detained by the security team Peter had called earlier, the safe house fell silent, except for their ragged breathing and pounding hearts. Peter turned to Sophia, his eyes soft with unspoken emotion. "I couldn't have done this without you," he admitted, voice thick. "You saved more than my life. You saved me from myself. From my pride, my walls, everything." Sophia's lips curved into a small, relieved smile. "We saved each other," she said softly. "I guess, unexpected love really does happen at the worst and best times." Peter's hand brushed hers, lingering. "Unexpected, but exactly what I needed," he whispered. The shared vulnerability and mutual respect that had formed over time now solidified into genuine love and connection. They were no longer isolated souls bound by fear. They were partners, equals, and something more profound. Sophia remembered the first time she had overheard the danger. Heart pounding, hands trembling. The fear that had gripped her then was nothing compared to the adrenaline now. The exhilaration of surviving together, triumphing against odds, and finding love where neither expected it. Peter smiled faintly, a rare, genuine expression. "You were right. I shouldn't have ignored it. You shouldn't have ignored it either," he said, the memory of hesitation now a lesson in trust. Sophia laughed softly, brushing a loose hair behind her ear. "Next time we act together from the start," she said. The city outside was waking to a new day. Lights reflected off wet streets, the smell of rain and asphalt mixing with the first hints of morning coffee. Peter and Sophia sat side by side, hands intertwined, the tension replaced by calm, safety, and warmth. "I never thought I'd find someone like you," Peter murmured, eyes tracing hers. Sophia's smile deepened. "And I never thought I'd risk everything and find this," she said, gesturing between them. "Love, trust, connection, all at last." They leaned close, a shared smile bridging the last vestiges of fear and doubt. Outside, the city continued its rhythm, but inside the safe house, a story of unexpected love, courage, and triumph had reached its beautiful conclusion. Did you feel the tension, fear, and ultimate triumph of Peter and Sophia's journey? Comment below. What would you have done in their shoes, and who would you risk everything for? Thank you so much for watching this story all the way to the end. Your time, your support, and your presence here mean more than words can say. If this story touched your heart, inspired you, or kept you watching, please make sure to subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories like this one. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss a new upload. Until next time, stay blessed, stay strong, and keep believing in love. See you in the next story.